Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to today's Caffeine for the Soul. This week we're going to be exploring a phenomenon I call the Facebook feed of the mind. And I first sort of noticed it, came across it last summer, not long before the parliamentary elections in the United Kingdom. And my wife made an observation. She said, based on my Facebook feed, Labour are going to win this election by a landslide. And when I looked through her feed, I could see what she meant. There were dozens of posts, reposts, news stories, blogs, how the UK was swinging back towards the left, and the ads and promoted stories were a new tide coming in British politics. And now I know a thing or two about confirmation bias and the nature of social media, so I wasn't quite as convinced as she was, but it was pretty compelling. Now, when the election actually happened, and the Conservatives regained a majority that seemed to catch many of the major news outlets and pretty much all of my wife's friends on Facebook completely by surprise, those suspicions were confirmed. Now, you may have experienced something similar in the recent American nominations in the Democratic and Republican Party, where your Facebook feed told you that it was clearly going to go one way, and then it actually went a different way. You may have found the same thing if you're involved in Brexit, the exit of Britain from the European Union. The problem with going to Facebook to see which way the winds of change are blowing is that your preferences determine the direction of the wind. So without pretending to know all the details of how Facebook filters its news feeds, it's pretty clear that each time you like a post, you get to see more posts like the one you clicked on and less posts not like the one you clicked on. And there are a lot of other programs Pandora stumbled upon that use a similar algorithm to help their users design the perfect radio station that only plays songs you really like and only see websites that reflect your personal interests. So in effect, what social media very effectively does is it narrows our reality tunnels. It includes more and more evidence confirming our pre-existing biases and less evidence that there are happy, successful people in the world who think differently than we do. Now, this is not, as you probably know, an anti-social media screed. It's just most of us are largely unaware that the mind works in exactly the same way as our Facebook feed. Each time we give our attention to a thought on its way through our head, the associative algorithm of the mind will send more thoughts along like the one we're thinking about. And each time a thought passes through which fails to hook our attention, it disappears back into the fertile void, and we don't necessarily see a thought like that again for a while. Now, here's another example. I'm going to guess you've been in an argument with a longtime friend or family member at some point in your life. And I'm sure you've experienced this because as soon as they do that thing they do that drives you nuts, you start to think about the last time they did it. And then you think about the time before that. And before long, the Facebook feed of the mind is showing you nothing but example after example of the other person's history of malfeasance and your heroic stand against them and people like them throughout your entire life. Now, missing entirely from the feed for the duration of your thought storm are any examples of their kindness, their intelligence, their love. And once the storm passes, the feed begins to gradually reintroduce memories of good times that not only remind you of why you love them, but also give you compassion for their inevitable moments of lostness and confusion and insecurity. Now, similarly, let's say you're infatuated with a new child, a new toy, a new lover, a new cause in the world. Your inner news feed will be filled with thoughts of how wonderful they are and how wonderful life with them will be on into your infinite future together. And then, inevitably, when the infatuation settles down, the newsfeed will start to reintroduce thoughts to remind you that at least on this planet, there's no light without dark. There's no good without bad. There's no left without right. So the question that I hope you're asking at some level is, well, what do you do with a mind that often seems to have a mind of its own? Well, over the course of the week, I'm going to share a few strategies that are popular in society as ways of dealing with it, and a few more radical strategies that you might actually find more useful. So until then, have fun, learn heaps, and I'll talk to you soon.